Let's take this time to talk about the levels of planning and the coaching cycle. Two concepts that on the surface may not seem like they link up, but I'll explain how they do. First, you see we have an inverted pyramid off to the left, and I'll explain that visual in a moment. The point of this video really is to go over where do you have opportunities as a coach to engage with your sellers, to help them plan, to coach them at various levels where you can create some insight and add value for them. So that's what this inverted pyramid is meant to represent. So we have these different levels of planning, or the different levels at which we can coach our team. Let me just explain them really quickly. At the top, we've got pipeline and territory. What does this mean? This means we can engage in conversations with our salespeople about their territory plan, the state of their pipeline, and generally speaking, the focus of those conversations is all about, where do we have opportunity? Where are there accounts that we can and should be pursuing? And that's essentially what the focus of territory planning is, right? It's literally planning the territory or planning the approach to building pipeline in a territory. Then beneath that is a level that we call account level planning or coaching. Why? Well, because we're focused on accounts, or put another way, relationships. At this level of planning and coaching our reps, we're talking about kind of the long term, playing the long game and developing a strategy that's all about strengthening relationships with our target accounts. For instance, identifying key players, what matters to them, and so forth. Beneath that, we have a layer that's called opportunity planning or opportunity coaching. And this layer is all about winning the deal, right? Winning the opportunity. And our focus while planning with our reps or while coaching them on their opportunity strategy is specifically helping them to arrive at new or better, improved strategies to win the opportunities that they are pursuing. Then beneath that at the bottom, we have call or meeting planning. And this is really just planning the next call, right? Working with a rep to help him or her to improve their plan, to achieve a specific objective and advance a step forward in a sales call that they may be making, say in the next few days. So those are the various levels at which we can plan and coach with our reps. There's one other important point that I want to make here. As we look at this inverted pyramid, you can see it gets sort of narrower as we go down from the macro pipeline territory level planning down to account level planning. And what that's meant to represent is the activities that we have at the top are of a more sort of macro, perhaps more strategic bent. And so they happen less frequently. They may happen, territory planning may happen, once per year or just a few times per year, say, on a biannual basis. Whereas account level planning to strengthen relationships, planning to identify new contacts, new opportunities, that may happen more frequently, say on a quarterly basis. Opportunity planning and coaching happens even more frequently than that. Why? Well, the pace at which opportunities move and the frequency with which we need to plan and improve our strategies to win those opportunities happens more frequently, we'll say, on a monthly basis, for example. And then call planning, meeting planning happens most often. Why? Because sales calls, sales meetings are happening every day, and we need to be there with our reps to help them to plan and to coach them so that they can improve their plans to those calls. So that, in a nutshell, are the levels of planning. So you can see that there are different levels at which we can engage with our teams. One really important point here, and it's a mistake, frankly, that I see managers and coaches make frequently, that they try to blend some of these activities together, right? For example, I hear a sales manager say, and this is a very frequent thing that I hear, I meet with each of my reps, say, on a monthly basis, and we talk about account plans, opportunity plans, and a few call plans. And I say, interesting, how much time do you take to do that? And the answer is, well, we spend about an hour. Well, if you think about it, really, investing in an appropriate way, focusing deeply enough, asking the right questions, and arriving at some important conclusions and improving account level plans is challenging enough. When you're trying to lace in opportunity level planning, call planning, we're literally trying to do too much. And that's a mistake that I see managers make all the time, right? So the headline here is, let's be conscious of these various levels of planning. And most importantly, let's remember that each level of this pyramid, each layer, if you will, represents a different kind of insight that we can create for our salespeople. Or, put another way, for each level or layer of the planning process, there are certain commitments that we can seek to gain that are appropriate for the given level, right? If we're talking about an account plan and I'm coaching a member of my team, then the commitments that I might want from her or from him are all about the actions that they need to take to strengthen the relationship. If I'm talking to a member of my team about their opportunity plan, or I'm coaching them about their opportunity strategy, the commitments that I'm looking for from that rep are all about the steps that he or she will take to perhaps gain access to a member of the decision-making process, or to clarify and validate needs with key players, right? So you can hear those are very different sorts of commitments that I want to gain as a coach from my salespeople, and they change depending on which level at which I am planning and coaching with them. That is why we cannot blend these things together, right? We really, really have to be intentional and focused on the level of planning and that level of coaching that we're engaged in. Otherwise, the commitments that we seek from our people can be very confusing and almost impossible to follow through upon. Okay, with all of that said, I mentioned at the top of this video that there's a connection between these levels of planning and what I've called the coaching cycle, so I want to talk about that next. What we have on the right is a simple visual. It's the three key elements of the coaching cycle: plan, do, review. To be clear, I wanted to show you those three elements without putting them in a cycle just yet, but they are absolutely to be drawn and understood as a cycle: plan, do, review. First we plan, right, at some level. Then based on whatever plan and commitments we agree to with our reps, our rep goes out and executes the do, right? Maybe we're there to observe, maybe we aren't, but the rep is responsible for executing on the plan that we've developed. After executing, and this is a big opportunity for everybody that I talk to about the plan, do, review cycle, we review progress, right? If we executed the plan, did we get the outcome that we wanted? Why or why not? What went well? What didn't? What can we learn, right, by reviewing the action, kind of the after action, that will help us to determine what we need to do next? Is there anything that we can improve upon, anything we should avoid in the future? If we do that, that sort of lends itself naturally to another round of planning and presumably coaching. How? Because let's just say our rep went out, executed the strategy that we talked about in an opportunity planning session. He was successful in gaining access to a couple of people who are involved in the decision-making process. Now we need to plan that meeting, the call, on those two key people who are involved in the decision-making process. I want to be there, involved in that planning with my rep, and that's how the review process leads us naturally right back into planning. Perhaps in this example, we have to plan the next call, and we have to also reconvene to update on where we are with the strategy to win. So that would be opportunity planning. So that is my brief explanation of the levels of planning and coaching and how they relate to the coaching cycle. Now, the real challenge, of course, is application, right? How do we make these ideas work in your environment? There are always going to be barriers to the coaching cycle, to plan, do, review, right? I said in the video earlier that this is, the review portion is something that tends to be overcome by events, but let's face it, there's other obstacles other priorities, other people, other things that eat up your time, that you'll have to consider. How do I overcome those things to make sure that I stay committed to that planning, doing, and reviewing cycle, the coaching cycle, and make sure that I'm not blending and I'm really being conscious and intentional about the various levels at which I can plan and coach with my team. When you get into live application sessions, conversations with your coach, me, or a member of my team, we'll talk about that. Because in the end, these are simple concepts that can be difficult to apply. Let's talk about how to help you overcome the barriers that get in the way in your environment.